When you're talking about psychological horror in video games, you pretty much won't get around mentioning Silent Hill. And in the same way, when it's about movies and literature, Stephen King's name will come up eventually. His writing has spawned so many horror cult classics that his name is inseparably intertwined with this genre. So it's actually not that big of a surprise that Silent Hill 2 drew a lot of inspiration from King's works and themes. There are, for instance, some quite obvious nods and references scattered over the games. The Bachman Road in Old Silent Hill, for example, hints at Richard Bachman, King's pseudonym he used between 1977 and 1982 for novels such as Roadwork and The Running Man, to see if his works would be successful even without his established name attached to it. Also, in Silent Hill's Cafe 522, we can find a poster of Stephen King's Study Dammit, while the pinball machine in the cafe is a reference to Children of the Corn. There's also movie posters for Carrie and Pet Sematary hanging on the wall across Green Lion Antiques. And in one of the back alleys of Block Street, we find the word Red Rum smeared in blood on a garage. But it gets more interesting when we take a look at some of Silent Hill's themes and plot outlines that were either openly or at least very obviously influenced by King's stories. Starting with the fact that the town of Silent Hill itself is most likely located in Maine, which builds the setting for a large part of Stephen King's books. A lot of evidence in the game hints at that, for example the Book of Lost Memories, which states that the town is located in New England. Or the Gillespie house, where Alessa grew up, was based on the actual Olsen house from Andrew Wyeth's 1948 painting Christina's World, which is located in Maine. Also, after Harry Mason leaves the town at the end of the first game, he moves with Heather to Portland. The city of Portland, Maine just so happens to be Stephen King's hometown. But back to that Red Rum blood smear. You know what story that's from, right? Right, The Shining, the story of a writer that goes mad during a winter he spends in an abandoned hotel with his family. But not only the iconic anagram on the door and a lot of the eerie, looming and sterile atmosphere were direct influences for Silent Hill. In the movie by Stanley Kubrick, the hotel is built upon ancient Native American burial ground. The tribe that inhabited that land was fought off by settlers, and up to this day the wrath of their spirits haunts the place and causes people to go mad and get plagued by demons and hallucinations. And according to Silent Hill's timeline mentioned in the Book of Lost Memories, before settlers came from Europe, the area was a holy place for Native Americans who conducted mysterious rituals on this sacred ground because the land seemed to possess a mysterious power. But they were also fought off by settlers. And like in The Shining, the place's ancient powers have caused mysterious incidents over the centuries, and it served as a spiritual estuary between the real world and the spirit world. Centuries later, the nihilistic cult called The Order employed Alessa Gillespie as a catalyst to gain control over the town's ancient powers, and her story happens to share a lot of similarities with Stephen King's Carrie. Both girls were raised by an abusive, overly pious cultist mother, both grew up as an outcast for being different in school, and both developed poltergeist abilities such as telekinesis, telepathy, and projected hallucinations during their teen years. But they don't only share mental powers that manifested through a childhood of intense mental abuse. It's also noteworthy that both girls projected their soul to inhabit a newborn child at the end of the story. Carrie occupies the unborn fetus of Sue right before she dies, because she finds out, via telepathy, that Sue has been the only person that never meant her any harm. Sue's child is later shown to develop the same kind of powers, only now growing up in a happy and joyful environment. With Alessa, well, let me explain. Alessa's soul is actually split in half, the other half living inside of Cheryl, the protagonist's adoptive daughter. At the end of Silent Hill 1's canonical ending, Alessa realizes, also telepathically, that Harry was good to her, or rather her soul's other half in the form of Cheryl, and transcends their reunited soul into an infant. This baby grows up to become Heather, the protagonist of Silent Hill 3. And like Carrie, in this incarnation, Alessa's soul lives on to grow up in the happy and joyful home she never had in her former life. Now, when most people think about Silent Hill, they think about fog, or mist. And yes, The Mist by Stephen King happens to be another major influence for the setting of the game. Because as we all know, Silent Hill, or at least the fog world, is covered in a thick layer of mist with lurking monsters and evil creatures. Well, in The Mist, a peaceful coastal town in, surprise, Maine, gets suddenly overtaken by an unnaturally thick mist filled with malicious creatures that attack and kill the town's inhabitants. And the fog is even announced by a loud fire siren alarming the population.
Don't go
Just
out
like
there.
in Silent Hill.
There's something in the mist. It took John Lee.
Screw that, I'm getting to my car.
And I'll be damned, but the very first encounter in the book is a pterodactyl creature that breaks into the supermarket and attacks the people hiding in there. Sounds familiar? Yes, the first monster in Silent Hill is actually a pterodactylish creature that breaks through the cafe's window and attacks Harry. Silent Hill shows that it's like in movies. Stephen King as an influence can make for some outstanding video games, as long as he's not directly involved in the production. Seriously, try out F13, the game by Stephen King that came out about the same time as Silent Hill. It's an interesting play, to say the least. Thanks for watching Monsters of the Week. Now it's your turn to choose where the path leads. Until then, remember, the truth is out there.